Have you ever moved from one state to another and you've received some not so friendly comments? I recently posted a video about my husband and I looking at land to buy in West Virginia. And although I received a lot of helpful comments, they even gave me tips on other things to look for when you're looking at land. I did receive a couple negative comments, which, yes, I'm going to highlight right here. I'm just going to leave these here for a little bit so you can read some of the comments that was left. My intention is not to publicly shame these people, but it really got me thinking, yeah, I can understand how they could feel threatened because yes, I'm from the north and we're looking at moving not quite to the south, but it is the Appalachia. And I can see how somebody could perceive us from the north as somebody that could influence, I guess, their state. It also get me thinking because I know how this feels from the other side, being a native Vermonter, and we get others that move to our state. And you may or may not have heard this term, flatlander or out-of-stater. Those are two common terms that us Vermonters will use to describe people that don't live in the area. And I know it's not the nicest thing to say, but that is a common term up here. And what it is just a misconception of other people that basically come from a different area, transplanting to Vermont. Another thing about Vermont, though, is it is a state that is very common for people that have second homes. There's a lot of recreation, lots of ski resorts, not directly where I live, but we are close to a few ski resorts here. And people will often have different condos or second homes. And what I have seen is people from bigger cities, they move in. And the town that I live in, there's absolutely no zoning, which is why we live in this town. Some towns in Vermont do have zoning, others do not. I am fortunate enough to live in one where there's no zoning. And often what we see is people from the cities or other New England states, they migrate to Vermont and they get involved. They want to change our policies. They want to change our zoning laws. They want to tell us how we can or cannot use our land. They don't like the dirt roads that we live on, so they want to pave them all. So I can understand, being a native Vermonter, somebody from the city coming in and they want to change our policies, want to get very heavily involved in politics, things like that. So I can understand how somebody would feel from somebody coming from the north, moving to the Appalachian area. And it could be they just have a stereotype of northerners and they just think, hey, they crapped up their state, they're going to move to our state and crap it up too. So I can absolutely understand that because I've experienced this living in Vermont. However, my husband and I are very introverted, and basically we just want to buy land, live in the woods, live off grid, will help support the local economy, go grocery shopping, things of that such. And I do have livestock, so I probably will raise chickens, and I already have goats. So I just basically want to live in solitude in the woods off grid, and I'm not looking to change policies or anything like that. And I have met some of the local community to the area that we're looking at, and a lot of people are super friendly. And that is actually part of why we want to move to this area of West Virginia, because the folks down there, they are generally really friendly. And yes, I do get some negative comments, and instead of blowing up about it, I'm just trying to put myself in their shoes, because I know what it's like living in New England, having people from different states or different cities. They come in, they want to change your policies, they get heavily involved in politics, things like that. So there are a couple reasons why my husband and I are looking to move to West Virginia. And two of the biggest ones are our property taxes have increased over 40% in the past 5 years. 40%. And that's significant. Most of our taxes go to education in the state of Vermont. And I have 3 children at home, and all 3 go to 3 different schools. And that was already part of a school merger. They basically downsized the schools. They combined town schools, so neighboring towns will send like kindergarten to 4th grade to one school, and then 5th through 8th to another school, and then a different school for high school. Now, we live in a rural area. Each school is about a half hour apart. So you can imagine if my kids miss the bus, it adds an extra half hour, if not more, to my commute. And I know that. I live in a very rural area, but next year, instead of raising taxes yet again, they're looking at busing my children, my younger 2, 2 hours away, to school and from school. And I'm like, well, I know New England is known for having a great education system. My personal opinion, I'm not a big fan of it. I know others will probably disagree, but from my own personal experience, it's not so great. And I know everybody will have their own opinion about things, but it has not been pleasant for us. And so, yes, we want to move because next year, the thought of my children going 2 hours to and from school, and it's, this time of year, it's dark by 4 o'clock. They're going to be exhausted, and it's going to be harder. They also initiated your children cannot miss 10 days of school. They have a very strict policy. So if we want to go on vacation on a different week than what my kids' school vacation is, that's basically not allowed. You have to take vacations when the school dictates it. And for us, we live off grid. That is not something I am a very big fan of. It seems like they're taking more parental controls, or trying to, away from you. And that is another thing that I am not a big fan of. So the school system and property taxes are a big reason why we want to move. And when we visited West Virginia quite a few times, like I said, I have friends in West Virginia. I've met people in the area we're looking at moving. And for the most part, everybody down there is so incredibly nice. And yes, they know we're from the north, but they seem pretty accepting, pretty kind. And it's that, help your neighbor out mentality. And we don't have much of that up here. Yes, in some Vermont communities, you get that more, but not a whole lot where we live. And I just have to say, Vermont is not what it used to be when I was a kid or when my husband was a kid. It has changed significantly. So when I get comments like that, I can try to understand how they feel, because I've been on the opposite side, and it isn't always nice when you get people from different areas. But also, we tend to apply stereotypes to people from specific states, age groups, etc., because we may not know them as individuals. So you just make these assumptions about people that are completely often not even true. And let me know in the comments if this has happened to you, if you've moved from one state to another and you've had negative comments come your way just because you are from a specific state or you're from a background, and people just make assumptions. But oftentimes, though, when you meet people, get to know them, those initial impressions or assumptions aren't always true. And I know putting our journey out there is pretty vulnerable, and I know I'm going to get negative comments. I also have been in a fitness video that is well known here on YouTube for my friend's company, where I was in a workout video years ago. So some of you may recognize me from that. And I got a lot of negative comments from that. But I also, over the years, have learned, I'm not going to let people live rent-free in my headspace anymore. And instead of letting the comments get under my skin, I just try to look at it and see it from their perspective. So that's what I've done here. I've been to West Virginia a number of times, and like I said, in general, people are super friendly. They're very warm, and yes, they look at us a little funny. Why from the north would you move down here? And really for us, it's just for a very simple life. We live off grid. We just want to be in the woods and really not bother anybody. I'm not looking to change policies or anything like that. We just want a more simple life than what we have here. And I'm sad to see, Vermont going in the direction it is. And people make assumptions about us that just because we're from Vermont, they assume we hold the state's, values or whatever stereotype you want attached to it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's true or that is our viewpoint in life. So I just wanted to come on here and say, hey, I understand that some of these comments just come from, they don't know who we are. And I can understand their perspective. People from a different region, different area are coming to our state. Are they going to, threaten anything? Policies or anything like that. And so I can understand that because I've, like I said, been on that side in Vermont. So it isn't always easy, but yeah, I know some of the comments can get under your skin, but I just look at them and I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what was going on. Maybe they were having a bad day. I'm unsure, but if you guys have faced a similar situation moving from one state or another, let me know in the comments because I know I'm not alone on this. And we are still in the looking at land phase. It is so cold. It was a minus 11 degrees yesterday. It has been so cold, and it's only the middle of December. Usually we don't start getting snow until January, and we just had another snowstorm today. So this is not our typical New England weather. I am not a big fan of winter. And I know West Virginia does get snow, but not nearly as much snow as we get up here. So that is another thing I am actually looking forward to. And to the people that gave us advice on our previous video on some additional things to look for when we are looking at land, some of the questions, thank you. I appreciate it. It is a new process for us. It is definitely a journey. And like I said, I'm being transparent, taking you guys along for the ride. And if you have any other advice about buying land in West Virginia, let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.